people. My name is Wizzo, and today we will be talking about absent players or missing players from your table. And if you like the new background, leave a comment below and tell me if you prefer this or the white background. Now, on to the actual content. If a player's missing, sometimes it throws your whole game out of whack. Sometimes you try to make an encounter in a whole dungeon for your 5 players that are going to be there, but 2 end up missing. Here's the thing. Should you cancel? Should you stop that session for those players' sake? Now, there are a few reasons why you do and don't want to. The reasons why you do want to is because, well, you don't want to have your carefully crafted dungeon be butchered and adjusted at the last minute to provide a subpar experience, as well as depriving those other 2 players of a very fun experience. But what about the other players? The other 3 who showed up? Maybe it might be where Jimmy just calls in last minute, but you knew Daryl wasn't going to come. Daryl always never comes. Well, now you get to make the decision. Should you cancel or should you not? Now, canceling is a complex decision that you need to make. We've already weighed some of the pros for it. What are the cons? The cons can definitely outweigh the pros. You see, it's kind of like a little spiral or an avalanche effect. 2 players don't show up, or heaven forbid if you cancel for 1 player not showing up, your players then start to value the game less. If you won't play the game with just 1 or 2 people are missing, then why should I play, right? Why should I waste my time coming here? And eventually, other things start becoming more of a priority. Eventually, you might have Tara decide that she instead would rather stay home and watch Netflix, but instead says, I just can't come, family emergency. Other players see this, you cancel the game, you cancel it, and cancel it, and cancel it, and then it just spirals out of control where you're no longer playing Dungeons and Dragons. Now, none of us want that. But what happens if you end up having a 4 player game and 3 people don't make it? Oh, well, this is a little bit more serious at this point. Well, there are times when I think that you should cancel. But I have a general rule to go by. The general rule is this: half round up. That means that if half of your players are remaining at the table, round it up, then you continue playing. So, for example, if you have 4 players and 2 are gone, that's half rounded up. You're fine. Keep playing. You might have to change the game a little bit and do something else more interesting and more fitting to this group, but you should still play the game. Other people have come to play Dungeons and Dragons with you, so you should respect them and their time as well. If you have 5 people in your group and 2 are missing, that's half, round it up. 3. You should still continue to play because you have 3 players for, again, the same reasons. But playing these games is a little bit harder. You'll have to do some deviations. You might have to throw in a side quest here and there, which is something that you didn't have planned. Perhaps you could make this more roleplay centric, or make it more downtime if possible. Perhaps there's a detour that your group needs to figure out in order to go to a dungeon. If you have a ridiculous dungeon happening right then and there, find some extra fun puzzle or trap. Do something extra in order to occupy those players' times. But do not cancel, because then you'll have other issues that happen. One other fun thing that you can do, just in case if players don't show up, is that you could have a one-shot ready for your players. You could have an idea of what they want to play, or have some pre-generated characters, and then throw this idea out to them if they really want to do this. Since, the other players aren't here, why not? You guys get to play some D&D, you guys get to have some fun, you guys get to do something that the others don't. Ooh, that is something interesting. So you could have a one-shot ready in order to throw at your players and then let them get into a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Literally once, because it's only a one-shot. But what if your players don't want to do that one shot? What if instead they want to keep playing the game that they're playing in right now? How do you deal with those absent players? Well, this can cause many DMs a headache. There have been many different methods in the past of how to deal with these absent players. The most common method that every DM tries is the poof method, as I call it. The characters just go poof into an interdimensional bag, and then they don't come back out until the session is ended, and magically they're back there again. Now, this is a common method, but it isn't necessarily the best. It makes it not solve your previous issues. Your reservations about the other players not being able to help the group in a dungeon doesn't solve that issue. The issue about your other players having to be filled in for something that they were technically there for in game doesn't solve that issue. The continuity of the game is just completely broken from this, and it doesn't really work out. So, you have the second method that everyone tries, the piloting method, as I call it. The piloting method is where usually the dungeon master tries to play that character as best as they can. And after the dungeon master gets used to it, they can chuck this responsibility off to another player. And sometimes the players play that missing PC or missing player character. When this happens, there are a few drawbacks though. If the dungeon master has this character, that character is almost invulnerable because the dungeon master does not want to kill this character that they're being in charge of, that they've been given the okay to use and play to help the party, when really they probably would die in this situation if they were playing that character. So you don't want to get blamed for that. You don't want that guilt. You don't want to be that guy who just kills someone who entrusted their precious character to you. It's horrible. It's horrible. So that character becomes invulnerable. The other players find this out, and then they send that character out first to check all for traps, even if they're not a rogue. They'll send the fighter to open every door. If they're a wizard, they'll try to put them in the front. They'll do all these crazy things eventually when they find out that you don't want that character to die. But if you huck it off to the other characters, they have this bad feeling of not wanting that player to die. However, that is their friend, and you know how sometimes when that friend has a sleepover and they're the first one to go to sleep early, at least when you were kids, and then you possibly draw some things on their faces? Well, the same thing sort of happens in Dungeons and Dragons because we're all children at heart. So instead of drawing faces on that character, we might just, make them take a little bit more damage, make them pay for things instead of the group. I mean, they're not here, right? Their pockets can be a little bit lighter. There are some problems like that happen when you pilot a person's character. But hey, your party is at full strength and you are completely fine to keep trucking along. There is one other way how to handle absent players, and that is the reason method. The method that I have ended up preferring to do with my players, to keep continuity and give a reason why that player's gone. Now, it still has the problems of the previous poof method, where the player is gone and you don't have full strength for the party, but the reasoning method actually has some continuity to it. Instead, you could say that since they're pirates on the sea, this person ended up having a very bad bowel movement that day. So they were in the toilet for the entire adventure. You could also make it so that they had a mysterious letter happen, where it just slid under their door. They opened it, read it, and decided that they needed to leave in the middle of the night. They left the party. The party doesn't know where this person is. They try to find them. They could spend the whole session trying to find them, and they're gone. But you talk to that player over text or over whatever else outside of game, and you make it so that bit of them missing becomes extremely interesting. It makes them want to come back into the game. And it makes those players who are missing actually feel like they were missing a lot, because when you go over this with them, you don't go over a whole adventure and give them more content than the other players got in the hours of play that they had. You give them a snippet, just a little bit. Ooh, and if we know anything about free samples, you know that that'll get them hooked and bring them in so that they'll want to stay more. They'll want to keep committed. And there won't be the issue of Brenda just canceling because she wants to watch Netflix. Was it the same person? Doesn't matter. But, anyways. But there is one other thing you can do. You all are here to have fun in Dungeons and Dragons. If the round up rule didn't work and your party still has a ton of people missing and it all just happened at last minute and you don't have a one shot ready, you and that person are there and you don't know what to do, well, you can hang out. I mean, you have been playing with these people for a while. Hopefully, after a few months, you're at least somewhat on friendly terms. But if that's not an issue, then we do have to cancel every now and then. Now, if you enjoyed this content, and if I did help you in learning how to deal with an absent player through one of the three methods, telling you when to cancel with a round up rule, or if you just like this content and want to hear more, give a like and a subscribe. And if you have your own problem, I would love to hear it in a comment below, or what you liked about this video and what you would do with absent players. When would you cancel? How would you handle them? Do you have another method aside from the three that I listed? If so, I'm very interested to hear. This has been Wizzo, and keep rolling.